So back to 10 Downing Street, Boris Johnson has appeared to make his final speech as UK Prime Minister.
Thank you, everybody, for coming out so early this morning. In only a couple of hours, I will be in Balmoral to see Her Majesty the Queen. And the torch will finally be passed to a new Conservative leader. The baton will be handed over in what has unexpectedly turned out to be a relay race. They changed the rules halfway through, but never mind that now. And through that lacquered black door, a new Prime Minister will shortly go to meet a fantastic group of public servants. The people who got Brexit done, the people who delivered the fastest vaccine rollout in Europe, and never forget, 70% of the entire population got a dose within 6 months, faster than any comparable country. That is government for you. That's this Conservative government. People who organised those prompt early supplies of weapons to the heroic Ukrainian armed forces, an action that may very well have helped change the course of the biggest European war for 80 years. And because of the speed and urgency of what you did, everybody involved in this government, to get this economy moving again from July last year, in spite of all the opposition, all the naysayers, we have and will continue to have that economic strength to give people the cash they need to get through this energy crisis that has been caused by Putin's vicious war. And I know that Liz Truss and this compassionate Conservative government will do everything we can to get people through this crisis, and this country will endure it, and we will win. And if Putin thinks that he can succeed by blackmailing or bullying the British people, then he is utterly deluded. And the reason we will have those funds now and in the future is because we Conservatives understand the vital symmetry between government action and free market, capitalist, private sector enterprise. We're delivering on those huge manifesto commitments, making streets safer, neighbourhood crime down 38% in the last 3 years, 13,790 more police on the streets, building more hospitals, and yes, we will have 50,000 more nurses by the end of the decade, and 40 more hospitals by the end of 50,000 nurses by the end of this Parliament, I should say. 40 new hospitals by the end of the decade. Putting record funding into our schools and into teachers' pay, giving everybody over 18 a lifetime skills guarantee so they can keep upskilling throughout their lives. 3 new high-speed rail lines, 3, including Northern Powerhouse Rail, colossal road programmes from the Pennines to Cornwall, the rollout of gigabit broadband up over the last 3 years, I am proud to say, since you were kind enough to elect me, from 7% of our country's premises having gigabit broadband to 70% today. And we are, of course, providing the short and the long-term solutions for our energy needs, and not just using more of our own domestic hydrocarbons, but going up by 2030 to 50 gigawatts of wind power. That is half this country's electricity needs from offshore wind alone. A new nuclear reactor every year. And looking at what is happening in this country, the changes that are taking place, that is why private sector investment is flooding in. More private sector, more venture capital investment than China itself, more billion-pound tech companies sprouting here in the UK than in France, Germany and Israel combined. And as a result, unemployment, as I leave office, unemployment down to lows not seen since I was about 10 years old and bouncing around on a space hopper, my friends. And on the subject of bouncing around in future careers, let me say that I am now like one of those booster rockets that has fulfilled its function, and I will now be gently re-entering the atmosphere and splashing down invisibly in some remote and obscure corner of the Pacific. And like Cincinnatus, I am returning to my plough. And I will be offering this government nothing but the most fervent support. I'll tell you why, this is a tough time for the economy. This is a tough time for families up and down the country. We can and we will get through it, and we will come out stronger the other side. But I say to my fellow Conservatives, it's time for politics to be over, folks. It's time for us all to get behind Liz Truss and her team and her programme and deliver for the people of this country. Because that is what the people of this country want, that's what they need, and that's what they deserve. I'm proud to have discharged the promises I made to my party when you were kind enough to choose me. Winning the biggest majority since 1987, the biggest share of the vote since 1979. Delivering Brexit, delivering our manifesto commitments, including, by the way, including social care, reforming social care, helping people up and down the country, ensuring that Britain is once again standing tall in the world. Speaking with clarity and authority from Ukraine to the AUKUS pact with America and Australia. Because we are one whole and entire united kingdom whose diplomats, security services and armed forces are so globally admired. And by the way, as I leave, I believe our union is so strong that those who want to break it up, they'll keep trying, but they will never, ever succeed. Thank you to everybody behind me in this building. Thank you to all of you in government. Thank you to everybody who's helped look after me and my family over the last 3 years, including Dylan, the dog. And I just say to my party, if Dylan and Larry can put behind them their occasional difficulties, then so can the Conservative Party. Above all, thanks to you, the British people, to the voters for giving me the chance to serve, all of you who worked so tirelessly together to beat COVID, to put us where we are today. Together, we have laid foundations that will stand the test of time, whether by taking back control of our laws or putting in vital new infrastructure. Great, solid masonry on which we will continue to build together, paving the path of prosperity now and for future generations. And I will be supporting Liz Truss and the new government every step of the way. Thank you all very much. Thank you and goodbye. Thank you.
Boris Johnson making his last address as Prime Minister from Downing Street this morning, typically colourful speech, before he goes off to splash down in some remote part of the Pacific via Balmoral, of course, talking about how he got Brexit done, COVID-19 record rollout of vaccine, neighbourhood crime is down, police numbers up, new hospitals being built, so on and so forth. Jonah Hull, let's cross to him, who's at Downing Street in central London. So, Jonah, Boris Johnson very much lauding his achievements in power, as you might expect.
Yeah, Nick, right behind me now, Boris Johnson, his wife Carrie there, saying farewell to members of his outgoing government. You can perhaps have a look at it there if Sam swings the camera around. He can't go too far around, there's a light in the way. But Boris Johnson now walking away to a round of applause from, as I said, members of his outgoing government, MPs and supporters. He's getting into his Range Rover there and, of course, making his way now to catch his plane. He's going to have to fly 500 miles north to see the Queen. She ordinarily would be in Buckingham Palace. That would be just a short drive away across St James's Park. Instead, he's going to have to fly up to Aberdeenshire, where the aged monarch, 96 years old, is suffering from ongoing mobility issues. She's staying in her summer residence. The politicians are simply going to have to go to her, as Liz Truss will do as well, part of her appointment as the new Prime Minister. And we heard there from Boris Johnson in his farewell speech. Of course, that's a customary thing for an outgoing Prime Minister to do, to address the media and the country here for a final time in Downing Street. Boris Johnson there saying the torch has been passed on to a new leader, a note of bitterness in his words there, the reluctance with which he leaves this job that he's coveted all his life, saying the baton has been handed over in what unexpectedly became a relay race after they changed the rules halfway. He ran through his achievements and kept manifesto promises, everything from confronting Putin to record low unemployment. And of course, an important note, he warned his party now to get behind their new leader to stop knifing its leaders in the back. 3 party leaders and prime ministers have been deposed in just the last 6 years. Interesting words that from a man who had such a hand in getting rid of the 2 before him.
And Jenna, so he's off now, as you say, to Balmoral, as is his successor, Liz Truss, who will later then be speaking outside Downing Street. Tell us more about what's going to happen for the rest of the day, and also the challenges that she will face immediately she takes office.
Well, as I said, Boris Johnson goes to see the Queen now. At around about the same sort of time, Liz Truss, his successor, will also be getting on a plane, a separate plane, of course, flying up to Aberdeenshire in preparation for her audience with the Queen straight afterwards. That's a key part of the appointment process of a new Prime Minister. She'll be invited to form a government, and then she will make her arrival here at Downing Street sometime later this afternoon, where she will also make a speech before entering the door, number 10 behind me over there, as the 4th Prime Minister of this country in just 6 years. Liz Truss, it's understood, spent Monday night with her team celebrating her win in that leadership election. The result announced on Monday, of course, almost certainly knowing that that probably was it for her in terms of a political honeymoon period. She will immediately go about announcing a cabinet, possibly as early as this evening. Already most of those positions are filled, we know, largely by loyalist people who've demonstrated their loyalty to her during the campaign. And then, of course, there will be the urgent task of confronting the enormous problems that this country faces in terms of an energy and a cost of living crisis. It is thought that perhaps as early as Thursday she will announce a pretty enormous package of support for the country, perhaps worth north of $100 billion. That will be good news, of course, for voters and consumers, not such good news for the public finances.
Right, Jenna, leave it there for the moment. Thanks very much indeed. Jen Hull reporting from Downing Street, where Boris Johnson has made his final speech as Prime Minister on his way up to Balmoral. We'll hear from Liz Truss later. Jenna, for the time being, thanks a lot.